Hey, this is Gayle with BERNINA of Naperville, and happy Serger Club for February. We are using all of the new belt loop maker attachments, and I think you're going to love it. We're not making belt loops, we're making something far more fun and experimenting with a couple different fabrics. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking and selling this to you. We're going to go over, you get a preview of your presentation deck that you're going to get if you sign up. Now, this video is free. But if you sign up for Serger Club, you're going to get the special instructions and everything that you might just not get with, this video. So don't forget to check that out over at BERNINAofNaperville.com. But let's just get into it. Let's roll up our sleeves and let's do it.
So this gets emailed to you if you sign up for our Serger Club. Now, there's lots of good stuff in here. I list some supplies, give you links to where to find some of the things. We talk about the different stitches that we're going to use and the threads, and a little link to all of these products. Also, I have links to other useful videos, and it's just like a little thing to follow along with. But the main thing that people want it for is to get that special discount code, which is 25% off the BERNINA C30 attachments, the C12 compensating cover stitch foot, the overlocker accessory holder, and the extra cover stitch platform. So, enough talking. Let's get right to it. So, we're gathered here this month to talk about our belt loop makers. And there are three sizes, essentially small, medium, and large. The small one they're all numbered C30, but the small one makes a 10 millimeter finished belt loop. The medium one, 15 millimeter finished, and the large one is 20 millimeters finished. And what I like so much on these is that there is a second number that is a larger number. In this case, on the 10 millimeter one, it says 20 millimeter, and that is the cut width of the strip. And so if you are just searching for one belt loop maker, I'm not really sure which one to tell you, whether you want like skinny belt loops or large belt loops or whatever. But maybe after we use all of these and see what they make, we'll have a better decision. Now, there's another essential item that you need with these belt loop makers. That item was introduced when BERNINA came out with the binder attachments for the overlockers. And this is the accessory holder, the lower accessory holder. It comes with 4 different screws, and you need 2. There's a short set and a long set, and I'll show you this. So there's a short set and a long set. And the long set is for the Bernette B68 and 62 cover stitch or cover stitch combo machine. For the BERNINA, we need the short set, and I'm referring to the length of the screw on there. So another thing that is a good thing to have if you're going to be using these accessories a lot is an additional cover stitch table. I have 2. So I have one that I keep my accessory holder on, and then another one that I use when I just want to do regular cover stitching. It's also convenient because sometimes you're going to want a flat surface to do your cover stitching, but then you want to go back and make the belt loop, or you want to do something like that. So I like to swap them out, and this part is not terribly expensive. And like all of our Serger clubs, we offer you a discount on our featured items, right? And you can find that if you sign up for Serger Club right in our interactive presentation deck. But let's go ahead and attach this piece to our table. Now, you can tighten this down tightly, but you may have a need to loosen them just a little bit to slide this back and forth. But you get a lot of flexibility because you can also adjust this screw to pull your accessories closer or further away, whatever you need for the application. And then, of course, when you attach one of your belt loop makers, you also have the ability to slide it side to side, and you're going to see why we're going to need to do that. So let's go ahead and undo the screw, and you'll notice that on my pieces that I actually keep the screw screwed into the pieces when I am storing them, and that's because we don't want to lose those little screws. So let's put this in. And now I'm tightening it, but I might need to loosen it and adjust it once it's on my machine. And yes, I know you've noticed. What do you think happened there? I wish I had a fun story to tell, but it wasn't that exciting. But if you can come up with a fun story to tell, that would be a fun thing in the comments, right? So let's talk about cutting. Now, I mentioned that the cutting size is right there on our pieces. So here is the 15 millimeter finished and cut 30. It's etched right on our piece. Not many of us have millimeter rulers to cut and measure from, correct? So I just took one of my rulers. This happens to be the bias binding simplified ruler from Creative Grids. And I showed you how I prepped this in our Bloom and Grow Lesson 9 course. But basically, I just put blue tape on my ruler, and then I used a measuring tape that has millimeter guides to measure 20 millimeters, 30 millimeters, and 40 millimeters. And so then I used the edge of my blue tape in each of these scenarios to cut my three different sizes here. And this one, obviously, is the 20 millimeter, the 30 millimeter, and the 40 millimeter. So what I've cut here is some recycled denim. So these are actually blue jeans that were then recycled back into denim to make more jeans or a shirt or whatever. And this is 60 inches long because that's the width of the fabric. And this has a little bit of vavoom to it. It's not completely stiff, but it's a little bit thicker than our normal quilting cotton. So I did some test pieces of these, and they went through the belt loop maker very easily. So I didn't have to do any interfacing or anything like that. So that was pretty awesome. However, in my inspiration piece, which is my prototype, I had a bit of a challenge because when I made my belt loops, the fabric was a little flimsier because it's the pure solids. It's this, kind of weight fabric, nothing like our denim material, right? And so it didn't go through the belt loop maker as easily as I wanted. I didn't starch, I didn't do anything. I just put them through exactly like this. And another thing that, sometimes I do these things and I'm not thinking, right? Which is why you make a prototype. But I cut them all to length and then put them through the belt loop maker, and it was a challenge getting them started. So with that said, I made a bunch of these and I took my best ones and wove it into this 10-inch square. But what I would recommend, if you're going to be using your quilting cotton or whatever, that you put some fusible woven on the back side to give it more oomph. So what I'm going to be using in our demonstration today is the fabric that I have reinforced with the fusible woven. And I think it'll also make our hot pot have a little bit more surface protection or whatever. I mean, this is really just decoration, and I initially made my inspiration piece or my prototype with one spool of Orifil 12 weight cotton, which is here, and then a couple different colors of aqua and green Wonderfill thread in spaghetti. That's their 12 weight solid cotton thread. And so that's what I used for that. And I'm going to continue with these threads for my pieces when I recreate this pot holder for you. But I'm going to be using this fabric, and a green to create the piece that you see here. And this is a great way to just use scraps because You can see here I've got my green is pretty long, the blue is medium, and this is a little bit short. So hopefully I have a better time feeding this through the belt loop maker because it's got that, stiffened interfacing on it. But I thought it would be fun to do a different thread for the denim, and I'll explain why. So if you look at my cover stitch looper side of this piece here, you're going to see that my threads, even though they're thick and what have you, they are not presenting as well as I would like. So I thought a fun experiment would be to use a new variegated thread that we have at the store. This is by Wonderfil, and this is their soft lock thread. If you're not familiar with soft lock, it's like lingerie thread, or remember woolly nylon. It's like if you pull it, it looks thin, but when you release it, it fuzzes up. It's great for rolled hems. It's great for swimwear. It's great for all kinds of stuff like that. So I thought these two might present a little bit better in our looper. Another thing that you could consider is actually putting more than one thread through your looper at one time, like our friend Gayle Yellen does. And she's even got that thread fusion attachment that she uses. So there's no reason why you couldn't really experiment with what goes down below. The only thing is, for my application, I was initially thinking of making this a pot holder, so I don't want to put too many metallics or rayons in there because I want it to wear a little bit better. So the soft lock is definitely fine, and of course our cotton is.
And then through the needles is simply Serger thread. This is 50 weight Serger thread, and it even came with your BERNINA L 890, 860, or 850. Now, for our belt loop maker, here's the deal. You need to only use this in cover stitch mode. So it is not an attachment that you use in overlocking mode. If you don't want to fuss with something too much, so I recommend using a 4-thread cover stitch, which is number 21, and it's where we have 3 needles threaded with our Serger thread, and then of course our decorative thread is in our cover stitch looper. You're going to place your strip right side up and through the little device like so, and it kind of domes a little bit as you run this through. Then you will want to lift your presser foot and pull this gently. And you'll notice that I'm using my C12 compensating cover stitch foot. You can use either cover stitch feet, but I kind of like this one. And with this one, what's nice is I can align and adjust my piece so that it is right under my 3 needles. Now, it is a little bit of a trickier job to do a 3-thread cover stitch with just the 2 needles over there because you're like offsetting this, and it's really difficult. So we're going to line this right in the center of those 3 little humps that represent the needle. And then I'm just going to slide that to get that under the channel, lower my foot, and get started. And you can see it does a lovely job of covering that area like so. And then the top is also very pretty. Yeah, I like that. So cool. Okay, so that was our interfaced piece. And this time I'm using the recycled denim. So let's see what this one looks like. I have a sneaking suspicion that this one is going to go much better for a couple of reasons. First of all, I gave you the advice to not cut them short, to have nice long pieces. Well, that's one. And then another one is this is just about the right sweet spot of a fabric weight to do. And this denim is awesome because I can do it with the white side up and get a more whiter looking piece to weave, or I can do the darker blue. I'm going to go with the white side on top for this. And I've switched to the soft lock thread in the bottom. That's the variegated, kind of elasticy type of thread. And we'll see how this works. And that looks really cute. I like the subtleness of this particular spool for the variation in color. And now I'm changing out to the 15 millimeter and lining it the same right in the middle of these. So let's switch to our like aqua spaghetti, and I'm going to use our woven that's been backed with the fusible interfacing. Now, these that are a little bit wider, I think they're a little bit easier to feed through the machine, but you can decide. But we're going to put this one, the green side up, because that's my fusible interfacing there. And now I'm just going to push this through, get it started there. Use your tweezers if you need to. There we go. And let's see how we're doing. Ooh, it's looking good. I might need to tweak it, move it just a hair this direction, but I'm not gonna worry too much about it. There we go. And now I'm just gonna do all of my green strips. Now, here we are, same attachment, the 15 millimeter one. This time I'm using the denim. I've got it the blue side up, and I've switched back to my soft lock. So it's just about playing and, just seeing what works, what you like, your personal taste, and all of those things. So now we're switching to our final attachment, which is the 20 millimeter finished. And like always, I'm starting with my woven piece, and then we'll move on to the denim piece. Orfil yellow thread is threaded up through the machine. So let's see what's happening. Ooh la la. And now just switching to the denim and the soft lock thread in the cover stitch looper. And we're still on our final size, our 20 millimeter finished belt loop. And please note that we have used just the same stitch for all of these examples. So I have my woven pile, or my, quilting pile that's got the fusible woven behind it here. And then this is the denim pile, and I'm going to weave these together and these together. But let's have a look at the contrast between my prototype and the new pieces. So here is the prototype, no interfacing, no anything, a little bit hard to manipulate in the belt loop attachment, right? And then here was a wider piece, and you can see here where it didn't quite get caught there. Well, let's look at our new piece. First of all, way more robust, not as floppy, and everything got caught perfectly. And here you can see the green example there versus our floppy one. So I think all in all, definitely interface if you're using your standard quilting cotton. So what we're going to do now is we're going to prep our area for weaving. So I have a couple supplies. I have my blue painter's tape, and I've got my 505 glue stick. The glue stick is going to help our woven pieces stick together until we can bind it over on the sewing machine. Okay, so I'm taking a piece much wider than what we're actually going to be weaving, because we're going to do about a 10-inch block. And I'm placing this down sticky side up like this. And then I'm going to tape
this into position so it doesn't move around on me. And I'll do the same thing on this side. And I'm just making a loom. So any of you that are weavers out there, you can laugh at me all you want. Okay, so then I want to create a pattern. And on my inspiration piece, I kind of went fat, medium, skinny, medium, fat, medium, skin. You get it, right? So I'm going to do the same thing. So let's grab this one first. And I also want to tell you that I prefer to have the cover stitch all on one side and the needle all on one side. So you kind of get this double look to the piece, but you can do it however you want, doesn't matter. And also with these like this, it really they lay in place a little bit better. So I didn't make enough of my little skinny strips in our demonstration today, so I'm just going to be weaving in some of my original prototypes there. Okay, so there is our warp, and then we'll weave in the weft where I want to weave. So just like I started with a blue, we're going to do the same thing here. And I know my weaving friends are out there clutching their pearls. I get it. It's okay. At my technique. That's going to take me all day, but it's okay. It's Super Bowl Sunday, so obviously I have no plans. My team didn't make it to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to tell you who my team is, but we've eliminated 2 teams out of that because it's the Chiefs and the Eagles. Okay, so now we get that piece right down there like that, and then we're going to use our glue stick. Add a dollop of glue there. And remember, this goes on blue, but dries clear. And if you wanted, you could add a little bit on these pieces. Now we're going to take another piece, and it's green's turn this time, and we're going to do the opposite. We're going to go under over. I'm sure, have you ever made potholders? And I swear they were made out of sock tops and pantyhose tops and things like that. And just keep making your progress as you go through, keeping your pattern and all of that. It's now time for another green piece. So some people will just want to lift, 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 rather than trying to weave it through. You know what I mean? And if the glue isn't holding, you can always do a pin in there, like a straight pin or something like that. Now on this last row, you're just taking care to glue your tabs down so they don't pull out. And it's not going to be the same rows on your warp as on your weft because I don't have a beater, which is what you use in weaving, to get your rows really tight. So just be aware there. So I have a little bit of belt loop pieces left over. And remember, we're going to trim this down a little bit as well. And I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to weave my other piece. And I'll show you how I bind them. Now, you might think, oh, you're going to bind it on the serger, but you could, but I just prefer a traditional sewing machine binding method for these. So once your piece is woven and you've adhered like the edges to keep them tidy with some glue, it's time to trim it up. And I trim it up before I take it to the machine and do a little zigzag around the edges. So let's give this a trim. And I want to trim this to about, let's see where we are. We're at about 10.5. That looks about right. And I'm happy with that. So I'm going to trim this to 10.5 inches, trying to keep it straight. So I'm not trimming too much of this side off, but I do have to make sure that all my little bits are tucked in there. So now this has been squared up. And I'm going to just do a zigzag stitch on my sewing machine. Yes, we could use a serger, but my machine is ready to go and to do that.
Now it's up to you which side of your piece you would like to sew your binding to. I guess I'm just going to stick with tradition and sew mine to the back first, leaving a little tail so we can match our pieces. And now I've cut my binding 2.5 inches and folded it. And I like to go about to this side of my walking foot. When I do 2.5 inches, I'm lining it up to the right side of this right toe. And then I'm going to go down to the end because I am going to miter my corners. And then sometimes when I'm sewing it on, I just use the inside of the left toe.
You can see here that I pressed my binding on the iron and kept it nice and straight so that we can have very nice top stitching. So here's the finished product of the denim. And what I did with this one is I did a single layer binding, and the raw edge is under our cover stitching here. It's not what I would call a refined technique. The corners can get a little higgledy-piggledy looking, but just to kind of give you an idea, I bound it just so, you know what, I can show it, and I think the technique is pretty cute. I think in this case, it's a little floppy. So as far as a hot pad goes, potentially I would have put it on maybe some batting or another layer of denim or something, but you know, it's fun. It was fun to make. And then this one is our refined piece, the traditional binding method of sewing the binding by machine onto the backside, bringing it around to the front and top stitching it. And I think this looks cute on both sides too. I even added a little label to this one. So there you go.
All right, what do you think? Are you going to make a really cool hot pad or an embellished panel on a bag or just whatever you can imagine? I would love to see it. And don't forget to tag us on social. We're on Facebook and Instagram at BERNINA of Naperville. And you can find us, or find me rather, on Blue Sky at BERNINA Gayle. So tag us, check us out. And in the meantime, check out some of our fun and exciting and dramatic YouTube videos. It's easy to find. It's youtube.com/BERNINA of Naperville. And there you can like, comment, and subscribe and see almost 600 different videos that we've made. But until then, happy serging, happy sewing, and be creative.